Welcome to SveNFL.
What is up, y'all?
It's Jonathan Rollins.
Schif me, Sarah.
Two Americans living in Sweden talking about donuts.
Let's go, donuts.
I gotta turn the sound effects down on this thing. Jeez Louise. Air horn.
We were actually talking about donuts just before we pressed record.
Yeah, man.
And it's not even an argument or a conversation, but Krispy Kreme, which you Swedes don't really know.
They brought Dunkin' out here. What were they thinking?
And it failed, didn't it?
Yeah. Because it wasn't Krispy Kreme.
Bro, you can never underestimate the power of the hot, fresh now button. Okay? So, for those of you who don't know, Krispy Kreme is like, what is it, like 100 years old? I mean, it's been around forever. Yeah. It's a very old school place. They make some of the best donuts you could possibly imagine. Mm-hmm. And in every town...
It's yeast in them.
Yeah, and in every town that has one of these old school Krispy Kreme facilities, they have newer ones now that look all fancy, but we used to have one right around the corner.
Conveyor belt and shit.
Exactly, where they got the whole front. It's like a storefront windows. You got the conveyor belt. You can sit there and watch the donuts go through. But the beauty is that most of the old school and the new ones too, they have a neon sign that says "Hot Fresh Now." And if you drive by, I remember I love this. It's so funny that you brought this up. I used to work at this bar in Atlanta, and I drove every night when I drove home from work. I would drive on Ponce de Leon Avenue, right by the Krispy Kreme, and every night, and they're open 24 hours. They're making donuts all damn night long. Damn. Right? One night, I'm driving home. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I drive by the Krispy Kreme, and out of the corner of my eye, I see this little flash of light. And I turn and I look, and it's the first time in my life I actually saw the Hot Fresh Now sign actually turn on.
Yeah.
Right? Previous to that, it was either on or it was off.
On or off, yeah.
And this thing just turned on. And I shit you not, 4 o'clock in the morning, there's nobody out. I'm the only person on this 4-lane road. I pulled up on the emergency brake and did like a whip turn. Just like, meanwhile, I was 21 and a fucking idiot at the time. So I would never do that now. I would make a responsible 3-point turn. And, but
you hit him with a Starsky and Hutch?
I totally did. I hit him with a Starsky and Hutch, and I whipped right into that parking lot, and I was like, give me a dozen hot, fresh now, motherfucker.
Yeah.
So good.
A dozen,
great.
too. Ugh.
Now they cheat a little. Well, whatever. It's not cheating. It's smart, but they have an app now. So Krispy Kreme, you can get the Krispy Kreme app, and you can pick your favorite location, and they'll send you a push notification when it's the Hot Fresh Now button. Yeah, which is a little different, but it's kind of fun too. We did that when we were in the States. And my kid, one time when the kids were little, we were in Atlanta, and we were trying to explain this whole Hot Fresh Now phenomenon to them. And we were staying with someone who had the app, and the app, the notification came in at like 11 o'clock at night. Kids were in their pajamas. They were probably like 8 and 10 or something at the time. And I was like, all right, come on, go. It's happening. It's happening. And they're like, really? Like I was like, yeah, don't get changed. Stay in your pajamas. We're jumping it. They thought, they were like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like,
eating Krispy Kreme in pajamas, man. What's closer to heaven than that?
Dude.
Oh man, but we got some football that happened.
Right. We're gonna talk about football.
This week, it finally happened, everybody. Schif overtook me in Flip 'em and Pick 'em. And, yeah, man.
Hey, it was still a couple weeks to go.
Yeah, it's not over, but it's over. No, you gradually walked me down, as they say. And, yeah, whatever. I'm not sad. So, I don't know. And I'm sad that my team lost too. You know what I mean? It's just like everything is just. I'm at the bottom of the barrel in the flip 'em. I mean, in the pigskin pick'em league. It's just
Yeah,
not it.
it's a rough week for your Dolphins. I mean, we'll obviously get to it later, but
Yeah.
for me, it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed my Falcons being on a bye week.
Yeah.
Um,
I did not
I mean,
lose.
we could not lose, and we obviously have the promise of a new entity under center that we'll
Do you
talk
think
a
this
little
was the
more.
plan the whole time?
You know, it's funny. I did think this was the plan. I mean, it obviously makes sense if you're going to make the switch to do it after a bye week.
2 weeks. Yeah.
But at the same time, what I did not know as of yesterday was that they're putting Mariota on injured reserve because of some kind of a knee injury. So I think there's probably more than one reason that this switch is happening now. And it kind of confirms what I had said all along, that I'm somewhat convinced that Arthur Smith needs Mariota to get injured for him to truly make this move.
That's weak sauce.
It is weak because I think he wants to be able to do it without having to take the blame for doing it. But at this point, I think, either way, I think he's made the right decision, because I can tell you from a Falcons fan perspective and someone who knows a lot of Falcons fans, I don't know anybody who doesn't feel the same way that I do, which is like, we just want to see what he looks like.
All right.
If he sucks, fine. Then we know we need a quarterback in the draft. That's great, but just show us what he looks like. Like, none of us were really ready to blame Arthur Smith if Desmond Ridder sucks.
Exactly.
We just want to know. That's all. So I think it's sort of best of both worlds, to be honest with you. And we'll see. It'll be all the excitement will lead up to the game, and then of course, at the end of the game, we will either continue to be excited or we'll be like, well, that sucked.
What do you think about the excitement in Las Vegas?
Is there any excitement in Las Vegas?
I'm worried about them, man. They're 5-8 now. They lost to the Rams, the lowly Rams, who came out firing, man. They're like, they got no draft picks. They're still out here playing spoiler the rest of the year.
I mean, this in a lot of ways is one of the stories of the week. You obviously have, Baker Mayfield. This is literally 2 days after being claimed off of waivers. Rolls in to town, rolls into Hollywood land, and produces an ending that would be so cheesy on paper if you wrote it. Everyone's like, oh, it's like a Hollywood movie. And I'm like, this would be the worst Hollywood movie you could possibly write. You know what I mean? People would be like, this is too cheesy. We can't do this.
In all actuality,
A Shit Bowl, brought to you by X-Lex.
True. Yeah, because and you're absolutely right, because most people are just focusing on how this game ended, right? But like any good movie, the middle part needs to be really good too, and that was not the case.
no.
But this was a
They
very
started
interesting.
off strong. It looked like it was going to be a blowout.
It was sort of a weird start. Kind of curious what McVay was up to, because, Baker didn't start the game. John Wolford played the first drive. He did nothing in that drive, and then all of a sudden, I think even the announcers were shocked when they came out for their second drive. I was like, "What is that, Baker Mayfield? Like, what? Okay, all right, so Baker's in the game." And he did virtually nothing to affect the scoreboard until the fourth quarter. I mean, they were down 16-3. Cam Akers scored a touchdown at the end of a very long 17-play drive.
Yeah.
That ate up like over 9 minutes of clock. And then the Raiders went out there and raidered McDaniels on a 4th and 1. Punts the ball back to the Rams.
Yeah.
With a minute 35 to play. Obviously, trusting his defense, I guess you could say. But you do have one of the best running backs in football. and you only need 1 yard. So there's that. I mean, and they tried that, but they basically called, like, when it was like first down, second down, third down, they basically called the same 3 plays in a row. Josh Jacobs up the middle, and it was like, okay, well, maybe throw something else in there. Anyway, the Raiders punter did his job. He pinned the Rams on the 2-yard line. But that is pretty much when Baker Mayfield turned to Sean McVay and said, bro, hold my fucking beer. I'll be right back. Because he goes 8 plays, 98 yards, and he ends the whole drive with a 23-yard game-winning strike to Van Jefferson, leaving 8 seconds on the clock, dropping that shit right in a bucket. It was a perfect pass.
It's like his best throw all year.
Yeah. Very cool ending. I would argue that it's not a complete Hollywood ending. If it were a Hollywood ending, there wouldn't be 8 seconds left on the clock. You would see that one switching to 0. It would be all zeros. So everybody needs to calm down. But I will say that, obviously, just the idea, if this was a move, like leaving Derek Carr with 8 seconds to throw a desperation pick, that would get cut out of the script. You know what I mean? Like that's just sort of an anti-climate. Like no. Anyway, there are a lot of things to point to the Raiders side regarding how they blew this game. You've got Carr throwing a red zone pick at one point in this game, which is awful. I mean, it was like a floating beach ball.
Yeah.
That pass.
But he got hit in the tricep, right?
Yeah, maybe. But still, it's one of those where you're like, oof.
Yeah.
They had an offsides on a 4th and short. Mm-hmm. When the Rams were lined up to punt. I mean, it's like, what are you doing? Like, you gave them a first down, and I think that was the first. They needed that touchdown. That was not the last touchdown, but that was the first one that they scored. So it was part of the comeback.
But how many times can you go to the principal's office, before you finally get expelled?
I think
This is gonna wait it out.
I find it kind of. I mean, if you really listen and read about, not all coaching situations are equal. In part based on the teams that they coach for. There seems to be the assumption that the Raiders are one of the least cash-rich teams in the league.
Okay.
Why? I have no idea. Like, you're in literally the gambling capital of the universe. Like, how are you the least cash-rich team in the league?
Maybe because they're in the gambling capital of the universe.
But also they have one of the biggest brands. I mean, like,
yes.
I mean, you travel around the world. Like, if you walk into a store here in Stockholm, I mean, even though most people don't even know anything about football here, I mean, you're going to see a Raiders hat. You're probably going to see a Patriots hat. You know what I mean? The brand travels.
Yeah.
It's mostly thanks to that 80s and 90s hip hop culture really popularized the Raiders. But it's my impression that they can't afford to fire him. That's based on what I've read. They cannot afford to fire him.
They're stuck with another.
And
year.
It might also be because of they're still paying John Gruden too, so there's that. I don't know, but it'd have to be hard to be a Raider. I have empathy for the Raiders fans. A lot of their situation and the way that they, Raiders gonna Raider, like, it's very reminiscent of what happens to the Falcons year after year.
Yeah.
So I feel for you, Raiders. I feel like we have a common bond in our misery.
The Jets put up a good fight against Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
But
they did. Man, Mike White took some sacks, didn't he?
That one hit to the I don't know how he survived. His body got folded in half.
Ouch.
Yeah, oh man,
bro.
But he came back later, but he had to go and throw his liver up and then come back onto the field.
Exactly. Yeah, the weather was awful in this game. both defenses came to play for the majority of the game, so it took a long time for anyone to score any significant points. I think they had like 10 punts between these two teams before Buffalo finally found the end zone.
Yeah.
That was a bizarre touchdown by Dawson Knox. Did you see that where he flipped? He runs towards the goal line.
Oh yeah.
He gets hit.
Dawson Knox. Yeah.
Dawson Knox is flying through the air in a full flip, and his helmet nearly touched the ground. And during the flip, before any of his body touched the ground, the ball was outside of the end zone. But by the time he had completed the entire revolution, like suddenly the ball had broken the plane before he kind of slammed into the ground. It was like, whoa, that was dope. The Jets tied it up out of the half on a nice 10-play drive. And you kind of got the feeling that they found something interesting in this running back, Donovan Knight.
Man, there might be something about it. But you got to remember that Saleh came up under Shanahan.
Right.
And it might just be like that whole thing with just running back, just plug and play.
It does appear to be, or at the very least, they appear to be good at finding talent.
Yeah.
But either way, what is he? Where was he on the depth chart at the beginning of the season?
Yeah,
three or four, you know what I mean? It's like, anyway, I don't know what to say about Josh Allen. He wasn't great.
Jets are really good on defense, man. I think it's that, man. They're just gonna make it tough for anybody. So Mike White threw the ball 44 times, man.
Yeah, he did. He threw the ball 44 times without throwing a single touchdown pass, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, yeah, this was one of those games where I would give more credit to the Bills' defense, to be honest with you. The way that Ed Oliver, Matt Milano, Jordan Poyer, Greg Rousseau, these dudes were just absolutely brutal. I think they had like at least 10 QB hits in this game, plus the 3 sacks. Also bad news for the Jets. I don't know the result of this, but they lost Quinnen Williams in this game, who's definitely the heartbeat of their defense.
But he did walk off the field under his own power. So
I hope he's able to continue playing, because I think they could be in a little bit of trouble if he's out.
Well, I want them to be in a little bit of trouble.
True. Yeah. Sorry. Fuck them.
Fuck that guy.
Speaking of trouble.
Yeah, there we go. The massage recipient was out here.
The sexual predator looked a little more like a real quarterback this week.
Yeah, man.
But ultimately he kind of sucked ass. He was 26 for 42, 276 yards and a touchdown, and a very bad pick. Jesse Bates was like, "Ooh, thank you, I'll take that."
What was he throwing it to?
Jesse Bates. The Bengals have struggled, or shall I say, scruggled, beating the Browns in the last few years. So you could tell that they were kind of careful coming out of the gate. They didn't want to make any mistakes. But once they got cooking, there was no doubt who the better team was.
Yeah.
Burrow was not terribly accurate. He was only 18 for 33. But he did throw 2 nice touchdown passes, plus a pick. That pass to Jamar Chase.
How did Chase catch that, man?
I don't even think Chase knew he was getting the ball.
Yeah, it's like the ball just went right into, like he had no choice but to catch it.
He just turned around and it was in his gut, and he was like, "Oh fuck!" And
I thought it was a pick. I thought it was definitely a pick. He squeezed that in there, man.
It was like a dart. And then the other one was also nice. The flea flicker. To everybody's favorite trailer park boy, Trenton Irwin, with the mullet, hanging out the back, catching a wide open 45-yard touchdown pass on his birthday, no less.
Oh, cool.
So happy birthday to Trenton Irwin.
Happy birthday to him. Nice present.
The Browns did score to get within 10, but that's when the Bengals D basically kind of stepped up and just shut this whole thing down. They had 2 sacks in the game. plus 9 QB hits. Watson was under pressure all day long.
How'd your man Nick? How'd your man former Bulldog? Oh, we're not talking about that.
Well, actually, that was the last thing I had to say about this
Okay.
game. That my man, former Bulldog Nick Chubb, had a day to forget with only 34 yards rushing on 14 carries. I think he only had 6 yards in the second half.
Damn. But it's like the Bengals, man. That defense, they take it away. What you're gonna do? And
correct. But ultimately, I was very happy to watch, this shitbag of a human being lose another football game, and also very happy for Saga, who, due to the nature of the opponent, was kind of extra hyped and locked in for this game. Like she was
nice.
kind of, she was, that kind of game where you just really want to beat the shit out of. Like she was locked in. So I was happy for her, for sure.
Yeah. Then we had the Vikings Lions with the game of the week.
Oh, we do? Shit. I don't have that in my.
Oh, you wanted the pigskin? We'll follow pigskin.
I have Texans Cowboys.
Yeah, Texans Cowboys. We'll do that. The Cowboys squeaked by the Texans to let us know that they're not as real as we thought they were. And I remember you called 1% stupid.
I was being facetious.
You were talking about the 1% of the people that picked the Texans to win this game. What were they thinking? And the Texans, man, Lovie Smith cost them that game. That's all I can say. I'm always talking about Lovie Smith and, how he's getting the best out of everybody. And him playing not to lose cost them that game because he chose to go. Oh, actually, he played to win too hard. It was just dumb. Trying to get that, go for it on fourth down in the red zone to try to put it out of reach. It's like, don't forget who you are, man.
How do we know he wasn't playing for the tie?
Well, you know how he feels about that.
In an ideal world, you don't want a loss. You want to win. But if you can't get the win, sometimes you settle for the tie. A lot of football left to go in the season.
No, there's not, Lovey. There's not a lot of football left. You don't have a chance to get to the playoffs at all. Maybe that's what he was thinking. We can't get to the playoffs. Let's just fucking go for it. And then they lost. Because if they kick a field goal there, and then Dallas still comes down and scores, then all they need is a field goal to win the game.
I mean, they came.
And they got down the field. They got down for enough for a Hail Mary or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, they came very close to shocking the NFL world. I mean, the Cowboys needed, whatever. They put themselves in this situation. But, when they needed a 98-yard touchdown drive with 2 minutes left on the clock in the fourth quarter to avoid what would have easily been the most embarrassing loss of the season for them, they did it. The Cowboys outgained the Texans on the ground and in the air, but you had multiple interceptions from Dak Prescott and third quarter turnover on downs, plus that muffed punt by Kevontae Turpin. Yeah. You had basically
great equalizer, man. Turnover was a great equalizer.
Exactly. And they were sweating it big time.
But they pulled it out, and then on paper, it's just a W.
Exactly. And that's exactly the way they'll look at it. They'll be like, hey, a W is a W. We don't care what it looks like. Which is true, I mean.
You know what? People expected that game to look like Detroit versus the Vikings because that was a beatdown. The score made it look closer than what it was. Detroit came out to show us they for real.
This was really interesting. Especially before the game even started, to be honest with you. I read this before on Sunday morning. This is the first time in the Super Bowl era that a 10-2 team was considered an underdog facing a 5-7 team. And I guess you would say, but this is a victory for all the analytics nerds out there because, they basically kind of, they set the line. The betting line was essentially set based on the numbers. Like if you look at the numbers, despite the record, the Lions look like a better team on paper, and that turned out to be True. And, for me, this was one half of my sexiest matchups of the week. And I can certainly say that I have no regrets fucking with this game.
You know what I regret? You know what I regret?
What's that?
Not taking the Lions and flip 'em pick 'em as the underdog, because I picked them on the pigskin pick 'em. I went in and I just had this feeling the Lions are going to win this game. And for once I went in and changed my pick. You got it right.
The numbers in this game are crazy. Neither team could run the ball. The Lions didn't have a single running back over 42 yards, and the Vikings only had 22 yards of total rushing in the entire game against a much maligned Lions defense that stepped up and kind of played their asses off.
Yeah.
If you have to be honest about it.
Remember he fired that secondary coach, like cornerback coach or something like that?
Yeah.
And it's like they've turned it around since then. How toxic was that damn coach?
and the thing that's interesting about this is that, with no run game for either team, it was up to the quarterbacks to show up and show out. And Jared Goff, 27 for 39, 330 yards, 3 touchdown passes, no picks. Kirk Cousins in a loss was 31 for 41, 425 yards and 2 touchdowns, averaging 10 yards per throw. And Justin Jefferson, are you kidding me? How did they lose this game? He has 11 receptions for 223 yards. Unreal.
Yeah.
So, if you just look at the box score, you kind of have to sort of wonder, like, how did the Vikings lose this game?
How'd they only have 23 points?
As usual, it was a combination of things. Again, no run game. Turnover on downs that the Lions were able to turn into points. But also, I would have to say, Dan Campbell, balls of steel.
Oh, yeah.
Balls of fucking steel in this game.
That punt from deep in, like the fake punt.
On your own 27-yard line.
Yeah, from deep in your own territory. Nobody would expect that.
Another good story in this game, Jameson Williams, the Lions' 12th overall pick. Who has taken the majority of the season to recover from a knee injury that he suffered in the NCAA National Championship game, losing to the Georgia Bulldogs, of course. Caught his first NFL touchdown on a 41-yard bomb. Goff also hit DJ Chark for a 50-yard touchdown.
I have to do that every time I hear his name. DJ Chark. DJ.
The Vikings obviously made an effort to get back in this game, but the Lions just never took their foot off the gas. So every time the Vikings scored, the Lions answered with a score of their own. And honestly, you more or less iced this game in the fourth quarter with a key third down conversion on a 3rd and 7 pass to a 6'5", 335-pound offensive tackle, Penei Sewell. Dan Campbell.
Balls.
And he sends him in motion. I thought they were going to – I didn't know what they were doing. I thought they were going to do –
blocker.
Didn't the 49ers were kind of good at that last year. They did it a few times where they would send a lineman in motion to block for a run play. That was on like 3rd and short, but this was like I couldn't believe Dan Campbell. Honestly, he dragged the Vikings out to the abyss, and he finished them off by tying a 335-pound lineman to their necks and watched them sink to the bottom of the sea. It was brilliant. It was such a nice way to put a bow on the end of this game. I was thoroughly impressed.
Yeah. I agree. Then we had the Titans. What the hell? They forgot it was a game.
You'd have to be really disappointed if you're a Tennessee Titans fan.
Yeah.
You got again. You have Derrick Henry. He's got over 120 rushing yards and a touchdown, and you lose to T-Law and Associates.
T-Law was on fire, though.
Who kind of went off in this game.
Yeah, T-Law was on fire.
30 for 42, 368 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Evan Ingram had a day, 162 yards on 11 catches, 2 touchdowns. Zay Jones had a touchdown and 77 yards.
Yeah, they were balling.
And the Jags D, he kind of played one of their better games of the year. They sacked Tannehill 4 times, had 9 QB hits.
Tannehill, man, he's got to be the most frustrating man. I'm so glad I'm not rooting for a team that he's at the head of anymore. Because
he's awfully
presence.
He's awfully reminiscent of a Matt Ryan. He's like a younger version of Matt Ryan. One of those QB hits happened to be a strip sack fumble recovery by my man, former Bulldog Trayvon Walker. Let's go. First overall pick. All of those Derrick Henry yards came in the first half, and they held. Did you see this? You know how many yards he had, Derrick Henry, in the second half?
Wasn't it like 6 or something like that?
2.
2 yards?
2. He also he fumbled twice.
Too, yeah.
Fumbled twice. And both times he fumbled, it led to, I think one of the fumbles led to a touchdown, the other one led to a field goal.
I kept thinking, oh, they'll come. That's all right. They'll come back. No, they'll come back. And then next thing you know, there's nothing they can do.
I think the Jags were just more up for this one, man, because it's like they also talked a lot about it going into the game, that this was 9 straight times they have lost in Tennessee. So they snapped a 9-game losing streak in the state of Tennessee. And they just were not going to leave there with the L. They were like, no, this shit is over. Also, obviously the Titans are banged up on offense. They already had some issues at the skill position. Treylon Burks didn't play in this game. And like you said, Tannehill, he couldn't get out of. The dude couldn't fight his way out of a wet paper bag. It's like.
Plus, he can scramble if he needed to. Maybe.
No, he can't.
I'm saying he can run. I'm saying he's like fast. Yeah. They remind you every game he used to be a wide receiver in college.
Right. He's fast like white lightning.
Did you just describe the Philadelphia Eagles offense?
Oh, is that white lightning? I would call it black lightning. Let's go.
That black lightning. But the Eagles looking like they're coming into form. Really impressed by them, man. They let everybody know why they're 12-1 against these. But we always knew the Giants were fake news.
This was the other half of my sexiest matchup.
Yeah.
And I mean, as far as like a competitive game is concerned, I wouldn't say it delivered on that front. But in a way, it's like, I don't know. It's pretty, I mean, if you think about it, just from the Eagles' perspective, you could say it was like sexy as shit. You know what I mean? I mean, they obviously allowed the Giants to score a few points in the second half when they took their foot off the gas. But as you suggested, make no mistake, this was a beatdown.
Yes.
Hurts did whatever he wanted to do whenever he wanted to do it. Throwing 21 for 31, 217 yards, 2 touchdown passes, one to A.J. Brown, of course, as well as one to Devonta Smith. Plus, Hurts had 77 yards rushing and a touchdown himself. Miles Sanders, 144 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Man.
I mean, this was like the Giants could do nothing to stop this.
No, they just wanted this game to be over. You can see them looking up at the clock like, man, is this over yet?
I feel like they got exposed.
Just did this.
Yeah, they've been exposed.
I feel like they got exposed as a team that's like severely lacking in the skill position department. Why they decided to play Saquon Barkley despite the fact that he had a neck injury makes no sense to me. I get that you feel like your chances are better with him in the game, but why would you play him and run the risk of losing him for the next game? You're still like, you have your biggest game of the season on Monday Night Football versus the Commanders next week.
Yeah.
Like, that's your best chance to make the playoffs, and you've run your best player out on the field when he's not 100%. Like, it makes no sense.
But every year we have the bad good teams and good bad teams.
True.
And I feel like the Giants, even though I keep saying they don't have much to stress about, they're a bad good team. like where they look like they're good. They're beating shitty. They're good enough to beat shitty teams and maybe stumble into some victories, but in the end, they're just
Well, and also, the NFC East has what is arguably the easiest schedule of any division this year, which explains why they probably have more wins than they should have.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Then we had a certified.
A Shit Bowl, brought to you by XLEX.
The Baltimore Ravens playing the Steelers. Defense makes me wet, so I was kind of into it.
True.
But I thought the Steelers were gonna pull it out, man. But the Ravens held them off.
I thought so too. I predicted that the Steelers would win this game. I mean, J.K. Dobbins for the Ravens, it's his first trip back onto the field since week 2 or 3. He's been recovering from an injury for most of the year. He had a nice day, 15 carries for 120 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Huntley, I mean, before getting knocked the fuck out of this game with a concussion, he goes 8 for 12 and 88 yards. So, at this point, you're on your third string quarterback, Anthony Brown. This guy goes 3 for 5 for 16 yards passing. You could tell they did not want Anthony Brown to throw the football. But as you suggested, the Ravens defense
Is it the Ravens defense? It's not the Ravens defense. It's Mitch Trubisky, man.
Well, but that's
because our boy got hurt.
But that's what I'm talking about.
Comes out. Yeah.
But that's what I'm talking about. And and I mean they critically affected this game in a way where they crippled the Steelers' ability to score points. You know what I mean? It's like obviously this all starts. It's not my fault that it started this way, but my man, former Bulldog Roquan Smith, completely obliterated the Steelers' game plan with a sack that knocked Kenny Pickett out of the game very early in the game. So, as you said, in comes Big Dick Mitch Trubisky, 22 for 30, 276 yards. He did throw a touchdown, but he threw 3 motherfucking picks.
Just horrible.
Patrick Queen got a pick. Marcus Williams got a pick. And my man, former Bulldog Roquan Smith, got a pick too. Not my fault.
Shout out to Patrick Queen, man. I really love the way he plays. I said it even,
That was the most impressive pick.
Yeah.
Because that one was going across the middle, and he had to go way up there to snatch that thing out of the air. That was a great interception. But the defense basically stood on their heads and won them this ball game.
Yeah.
That being said, if they have to keep, I mean, they again, you're on your third string quarterback. Yeah. Lamar Jackson is not expected back next week. So if Tyler Huntley can't go, I really think the Ravens are kind of just hanging on by a thread. Yeah. Honestly.
And the Bengals are coming on.
Big time.
Yeah, we'll see. Next game, we got what we got next? We got
Chiefs, Broncos.
Chiefs and the Broncos. Broncos gave us all a scare. Picked the Chiefs to win, and Russell Wilson came out there reminding us that he can play until he face planted.
Oof. It's funny. The Broncos, I thought about this game when it was over, and I was like, it's great that they managed to score 28 points. We've been dogging on them all year for not being able to score more than 18 points. Yeah. But they probably scored 28 points against what is the worst team to score 28 points on. To me, the Chiefs are like that character from the stupid 80s movie that only gets stronger after you punch him in the mouth and he sees his own blood. They're like, what is this? This game looked like it was going to get completely out of hand early as Mahomes. I mean,
every week, man.
The crazy sidearm underhand scoop pass.
This motherfucker did what's his name? No, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar pass. Fucking sky hook pass that went for a touchdown.
Yeah, it went for a 56-yard
This
touchdown.
rainbow pass
Yeah, just underhanded scoop over the defensive
over his own head, around his own head.
While he's being chased
Yeah.
out of bounds, he still manages to do this, and it's more or less kind of a no look. Like, you could see that he looked to see where his guy was, and then he looked towards the sidelines, so he had a frame of reference of where he was. So technically, it was a no look underhand scoop pass. It's one of those things where you're just like, they were on the sidelines doing that. Man, this dude just did this kind of shit. You know what I mean? It's like,
Man, this dude just did this.
that was he passed that to what's his name? My man from Marietta, Jarek McKinnon, who had 2 touchdowns on the day.
Yeah, he did.
Right.
It was balling.
And then Russell Wilson, threw a pick 6. They're down 27-0. But then back-to-back Mahomes interceptions, and the Broncos getting the ball out of the second half. Suddenly they had scored 21 unanswered points. This became a ball game. Jerry Jeudy had 3 touchdowns in this game. Marlon Mack had a touchdown. But Mahomes finally woke up in the third quarter with a nice 9-play, 4.5-minute drive, eventually finding Juju in the end zone. Like you suggested, Russell got knocked the fuck out in this game. He was out there putting his body on the line, but he did one of the more brutal face plants that you'll ever see.
Yeah.
As he was trying to run for the end zone. And then I think the player, like, you could, in slow motion, when you see his helmet hit the ground, I feel like you can actually, your actual human head inside of a football helmet is actually kind of an interesting way to think about what your brain looks like inside of your skull as it takes a hit. Because you can see, the helmet's obviously kind of statically not moving, but you can see Russell Wilson's head inside of the helmet, moving around, like it's just being pounded inside of this helmet. And it did not look pretty. He looked completely lost. He had no idea what zip code he was in. I'm certain he didn't know his own name. He was tongue hanging out, like just completely knocked, like lost. Which brought in Brett Rippon,
who came out kind of trying.
Who did, he looked okay. But it was never enough. Once the Chiefs kind of woke up, Brett Rippon eventually did throw a pick on what could have been, I guess, either a game-winning or a game-tying drive, and at that point the Chiefs took over and they put together a 10-play drive and ate up the rest of the clock, and that was pretty much the ball game. I don't know. I'm not sure what the health situation of Russell Wilson is at this point. This concussion protocol stuff has been an interesting conversation this year. By and large, thanks to what happened to Tua. This assumption that you can come back the week after a concussion has been deeply challenged this year, and we've seen a number of people, a number of players this season come back after a concussion and then immediately be knocked out because of a second concussion. The reality is that, in the weeks after suffering concussion, you are extremely susceptible to having a second one. So we'll see. It might be Brett Rippon next week. It might not matter. The Broncos are trash anyway, so who cares? Exactly. But I mean, as much as we like to dunk on Russell Wilson, I don't wish a brain injury on anyone, to be honest.
And he was playing well too.
It is a real shame because I think I said it before we started recording. Had they managed to pull this out, I think this would have been, at the very least, a nail they could hang their hat on moving into next season. Yeah. Like, hey, we did not put it all together this year, but this game against the Chiefs, this is what we thought, because for a while there, this is kind of what you thought the Broncos were going to be this year.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Is Hackett going to be like, see? I think he knows he's gone. They're
Dude,
like,
I don't think
we don't care what financial troubles we're in. You out of here, bro.
I don't think there's any chance that he's there next year.
Yeah.
No
Do
way.
you think Tom Brady's in Tampa is playing next year?
Man, did he have a temper tantrum in this game? Whew. He was hot. No, I don't think he's there next year. I don't think so at all.
Do you think he's in San Francisco after he saw what they're capable of up close? Because that's one of the talks, man. Tom Brady out here, they put up 7 total points against that 49ers defense that everybody knows is really good. And they're out here steamrolling now, man. And yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you about to say it. Go ahead. Go ahead, say what you about to say.
Mr. Irrelevant.
Mr. Irrelevant.
Versus the GOAT. Brock Purdy. Mr. Purdy, if you're nasty. Absolutely blew the doors off of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey was unstoppable in this game.
Insane.
14 carries for 119 yards, a rushing touchdown, plus 34 yards receiving and a receiving touchdown. Ayuk had a nice touchdown in this one as well. Purdy was only 16 for 21. Talk about plug and play. 16 for 21, 185 yards, 2 touchdown passes, and a rushing touchdown with his parents in the stands listening to the crowd at Levi Stadium chanting, Purdy, Purdy, Purdy.
Yeah.
What a moment, right? I mean, unbelievable. The Bucs' only touchdown came late in the third quarter. Brady was terrible. Absolutely terrible. 34 for 55, 253 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. The 49ers did not record a single sack, but they were living in the backfield, all up in Brady's face the entire game. I'm pretty sure he injured his hand on somebody's helmet on a follow-through and then threw a pick shortly thereafter. To Dre Greenlaw, who was like a one-man wrecking crew in this game with 15 tackles. This guy was absolutely insane.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite young players. Like, Queen and him are like my favorite linebackers right now.
He was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
The Bucs also had a ton of penalties. They had 8 penalties for 61 yards, plus a long touchdown pass that got wiped off the boards because of a holding call.
Holding, yeah.
At a time in the game well before this turned into a beatdown. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying it wouldn't have continued in that direction, but I mean, those sliding door moments, you're down 14-0 and all of a sudden you're a touchdown away. It can really change the DNA of a game. You never know what's going to happen. But honestly, nothing went right for the Bucs. I mean, this is a very interesting situation. It's, the NFC South is bizarre in that everyone has a mathematical chance to make the playoffs at this point because it's so fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. Is Todd Bowles there next year? I mean, I guess that's stuff to ask at the end of the year, but it's looking like they might have to do a full clean in the house over there.
I personally, I think I've said this before. My answer to your question is that I think Todd Bowles should be there next year. And I feel like this year, I don't think Todd Bowles honestly got a chance to put his fingerprint on this team yet. Brady leaving and then coming back and his whole off the field drama that's played out this season, I think has had a terrible effect on this football team. Instead of being, and Brady's at the end of his rope. Like, you can see him on the sidelines. Instead of like pulling his squad together to try to figure out like, how can we change what we're doing in the game? He's over there screaming at them. The entire football game, like the level of tantrum that he had in this football game was worse than I've seen in his entire career, to be honest.
And he's a tantrum-filled dude anyway.
He's a normally tantrum-filled dude anyway, but the way that he was like screaming at Mike Evans, screaming at all these other people, like it was just like, who wants to, at some point, you don't want to play for that guy.
Yeah.
And I heard somebody say the other day regarding this game that you get the sense that Brady has no interest in trying to help coach up anybody on the team. He's just fucking pissed at everybody when they're not in the place that he wants them to be. He just expects people to show up and do their fucking job. And he has zero tolerance for mistakes. And you can see it. Like, he's just out there throwing all of his toys and his tablets all over the ground. And I can tell you, if I was sitting on that sidelines, I would be like, you know what, dude? Respect to your career, but fuck you. Like, I don't need people fucking yelling at me. Like, we're all out here trying to win a football game. So why don't you stop being a fucking prick and just throw the ball to the right place? It's not like you were fucking lights out this week.
Exactly.
So.
I love it. I love it. Then we got the Miami Dolphins played the Chargers. I thought the Dolphins were going to win this game, but they came up short. It sort of qualified as an upset too, according to the Pigskin Pick'em. Chargers win 23-17. I feel like it's come to that point in the coach's career or in the coach's season where they figured you out, and now you got to adjust. And I don't know. We'll see what Mike McDaniel is really made of, because that deep down the middle head start motion, they figured it out, and that's all they had. It seems looking like they're making the Dolphins look like a one-trick pony. And this is the third game in a row where it's been like, all right, now what? And it looked like Tyreek Hill he was playing through an injury too.
Right.
And he was still the only bright spot of the game. He picks up a fumble and runs it all the way for 57
That was hilarious.
yards.
Is there a worse player on the planet?
Right.
You got all those people in that scrum trying to get a hold of that ball. It pops out. Is there a worse player on the face of the planet for that ball to pop out into the hand? He's like, see y'all later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. It was I thought that gave us hope, but then I was thinking, wait a minute, he got more yards than the rest of the offense on that one play. So it was like something's wrong, and I think the who did we play and we beat pretty bad? Oh, the Texans were the ones who exposed it. Then the 49ers, but it was too late in the game for them to come back, and they're not equipped. And then the 49ers, followed up on that, and now the Chargers did the same thing. So it's like the middle's taken away. Now what? Make Tua throw to the outside, see if he can do it.
Not only that, you would
and
hope
run the damn ball better.
Well, that was what I was going to say, is that you would hope that at some point the Dolphins would start to have a slightly more balanced attack. It's not like they don't have the personnel to do it.
Yeah, it just felt stubborn too. And then Jeff Wilson got hurt too. He might be out for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, then he went off on the cart.
Oh.
But you can see his leg. Yeah, it must be some type of knee injury, because you can see his leg. He was fighting through a tackle. You can see his leg get bent, and then he goes a couple more yards and falls down. And it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, I didn't think Super Bowl for the Dolphins or anything like that, but I didn't know what to expect before the year. Got really excited when the team was out here looking like the top 5 team in the league, and now they look like a middle of the pack team. So, which is, I don't know. I guess that would have been preseason expectations. So we'll see what Mike McDaniel's made of. This pod is helping me through stuff like this, though.
That's good.
Because of loss. Normally, I'm just like, well, I'm not watching any football this week. Well, I won't be talking about this. This does not exist. How the Heat doing? How about them Heat?
Speaking of another team that appears to be regressing back to the middle of the pack, the Seahawks dropped this one to the Carolina Panthers. Panthers beat them 30-24.
Oh, I skipped ahead. I'm sorry, man.
That's all right. You provided a brilliant segue.
Well done, Sergeant Segway.
Geno did not have his best game.
No. Geno threw the ball. That first pick was like, excuse me?
2 first-half interceptions. Had the Seahawks playing catch-up all night long to Sam Darnold, whose sudden resurrection. I love that he has a beard now. He's like evil Sam Darnold. Like maybe they switched him in a lab, like his evil twin brother or something.
Him and Russell Wilson switched souls. He
It's
finally
soul
got
off.
it back. Yeah, that soul. It got his soul back this week. Oh yeah, I wanted to say, in the predictions, I said this was juicy. I wanted to go for the upset, and then I said, you know what? I'm gonna stick with the Seahawks. I think they'll win this game. Watch the Panthers win this motherfucking game. That's exactly what I said. And then they did. And I had gone back and changed it in the ESPN Pick'em. There was another one I changed to correct. Damn, I'm stupid.
Well, this was all about running the rock. Coach Steve Wilkes basically said, we're just going to run this. Foreman had 21 carries for 74 yards. Chuba Hubbard also had 74 yards on 14 carries. The Panthers overall had 223 rushing yards to the Seahawks, merely 46 yards on the ground. Obviously, no Kenneth Walker.
Yeah,
no K9.
Oh yeah, K9.
No K9 in this game, and it showed Geno was eventually kind of really came out slinging it after those interceptions. Godwin, Metcalf, Lockett all had touchdowns. But those early mistakes just proved to be too much to overcome. They did manage to get within 3 points in the second half, but Darnold put together a 10-play, 5.5 minute touchdown drive to keep the game out of Seattle's reach. So they managed to kind of hang on to this. And this is fun. Like, to me, I've sort of alluded to this already, but it has to be pointed out again how badly the Saints blew it last week in that late game loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Had they won that game, had they not stepped on a rake, had they not tripped over their own dicks, okay, because of this Panthers win, had all of that happened, we would be looking at a legit 4-way tie for first place in the dreaded
Saints,
NFC South. So way to go, Saints. The rest of us are doing our part to make this shitty division interesting, and you just fucked it up.
Man.
Unbelievable.
And then the Monday night game, Kyler Murray got hurt right away. And
Third play of the game, he blows out his ACL. He is, or at least that's what we think. The Patriots defense just completely devoured Colt McCoy, who came in for Murray. They had 6 sacks, 2 takeaways, a touchdown.
Because Hopkins had a fumble too.
Yeah, and a bunch of 4th down stops. And the Patriots defense, they only allowed 1 touchdown in the game, and just
because they all didn't know, and their defense scored 2 touchdowns in the game, right?
Exactly. Yeah, most of their points came from defense.
Of course.
The offense is still, the defense is out here covering up for what is a very bad offense. Because it's not like Mac Jones was good. You know what I mean? He was 24 for 35, 235 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. They also lost Ramondre Stevenson in this game to an ankle injury. He only had 3 carries. So their leading rusher was some guy I've never heard of, Pierre Strong Jr. Okay.
That sounds like a Patriots running back name.
They probably just picked him because of his name. We'll take that guy. I mean, what are you supposed to say about these Cardinals? I mean, I know they lost their starting quarterback, but still.
I want to, for them, I want to say what a former Cardinals coach said.
But they are who we thought they were.
It's like they're losing at the end of the season. They were losing at the beginning of the season. It's time to move on from Cliff Kingsbury. Will they? I don't know.
You know what? We talked about this at the beginning of the season, too. We said that, everybody knows the story of Cliff Kingsbury usually starts off in the win column and trails off towards the end of the year. Now, given that DeAndre Hopkins was suspended until week 6 or 7, a lot of people were wondering if he could have the reverse of what he normally has. Like,
Right. I didn't wonder that.
A rough start. I did. I mean, I kind of thought like he's certainly set up for that.
Yeah.
to have a rough start and a strong finish, which could obviously help by way of keeping his job. But at this point, I don't see any reason to keep Cliff Kingsbury as your head coach.
No, me neither.
Nor do I see any reason to keep, I forget his name now, but the GM.
They both got extensions too.
And that is absolutely the biggest head scratching thing that was done all year. Why would you do this? And now you've extended your franchise quarterback, who's completely blown out his ACL, presumably, and he ain't no pocket passer. I mean, his entire game plan is predicated on his ability to scramble, and we don't know what that injury is going to do to affect his scrambling ability. The Cardinals are in dire straits right now. I mean, they are really looking at a lot of questions that are going to take a long time to answer.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do going into? You're not going to make the playoffs. You should absolutely fire your coach and your GM, but you also might want to go out and get a quarterback.
Oh shit.
I mean, do you really have any choice?
Well, there's some quarterbacks that are on like audition right now.
Such
on
as
there, like Baker Mayfield. That'll be a good complementary to Kyler Murray. So you don't have to change the offense that much because he's going to need to roll out. You know what I'm saying? Like
it could truly test that friendship. Because he and Kyler they both played for Oklahoma.
Oh yeah. No, but it'll be like, hey Baker, you're holding it down until Kyler's healthy. You also have Sam Darnold out there. You have Trubisky, who's on all of these guys are on audition runs. I'm not saying they're good. I'm saying they're like doing their audition runs.
You got
what happened to our guy with the stash?
Marcus Mariota?
No, he's nobody's gonna.
Who?
Minshew, Gardner Minshew.
Gardner Minshew isn't he the backup in Philly?
In Philly, yeah. Yeah, they shut that down. How about one thing I want to mention from this game? James Conner. Did you see his angry run?
He's a bad man.
He is a bad man. He carried the entire defense and fan base into the end zone. That was a great run. I was like, damn, you can hear the commentators go, wow, when he did it. It was truly, it wasn't some bullshit. Oh my God. It was like really like.
He's a bad man. I like James Conner.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's time to get to these superlatives, man. Man, real MVP was hard for me because a lot of people had some out of their mind games. Some honorable mentions I'll throw in there is like Christian McCaffrey, Jared Goff. I don't like to give it to people that lose, but Jefferson and Kirk Cousins. But I got to give it to Jalen Hurts, man, who kind of solidified this push for MVP. It's looking like he might be the league MVP right now. Some of those passes, he's just dropping them right in there. He's a threat on the ground too. He even ran for that touchdown as well. Like, this dude is playing out of his mind right now, and he did on Sunday. So I got to say to Jalen Hurts, if I could find it, which I cannot because I added stuff.
You the real MVP.
Yeah.
I agree. He might be the actual MVP, as you suggested. That being said, I'm going to go with Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions.
Yes.
What a performance.
Yeah.
And to be favored as a 5-6 team going up against a 10-2 team, yes, the Vikings are a little false gold. But this was
Did
a
somebody
situation.
say Josh Allen? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But this was a situation that had the Lions set up so perfectly to disappoint, and they didn't. They didn't win in the way that you would have expected. The run game was missing in action. So Jared Goff, Mr. I don't need a frickin' air conditioning because I'm so red hot, right?
Yeah.
this dude had himself a day, 330 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Mhm.
This is a total team victory up and down the lineup, both sides of the ball. They finish off their season against the Jets, Panthers, Bears, and Packers, all winnable games.
Oh, wow.
And if they can run the table, they have a very real chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah.
So go get it, Lions.
You the real MVP.
My trash, this person nearly has it in their name. I gotta go with Mitch Trash Bisky. We all thought that the Steelers were we're all fighting, rooting for Mike Tomlin to get another winning season. Everybody's hoping for this to happen. And in the words of my girl with the big forehead,
I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you?
everybody wanted this to happen. We wanted Mike Tomlin to get this, and Mitch Trubisky comes in the game because of your man, former Bulldog, slamming our guy Pickett to the turf, and he has to come out, and we're like, it's okay, Mitch Trubisky, this is your chance to shine, and he comes in and he throws 3 picks and looks like trash, man. I gotta say it, man. I'm sorry, but Mitch Trubisky.
You are trash.
It's true.
It's the second time this season, I believe, that I said that. That he was the trash.
For me, the Raiders' performance versus the Rams brought forth a special, historic kind of trash, which, you know how much I love some historic trash.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Going into Thursday, NFL teams were 70-2 on the season when leading by 13 points or more in the final 5 minutes.
Damn.
But that record is now 70-3. The Raiders led 13-3 at the half, which means under Josh McDaniels, they've now blown 4 double-digit halftime leads on the season, which makes them the first team since at least 1930 to do that.
God damn.
On top of that, their 16-3 lead, which they subsequently blew, made them just the 4th team in NFL history to blow that big a lead in 4 separate games in a single season. The 82 Rams, 96 Jets, and the 98 Colts did it. And you allowed this to happen at the hands of Baker Mayfield, of all players.
Baker Mayfield on 1 week of preparation.
Not even.
Like, not a half a week with the team.
A 98-yard touchdown drive by Baker Mayfield was not only impressive, it was literally the longest drive of his NFL career. Ever. Okay? Now, throw in the defensive offsides on what was supposed to be a 4th down punt by the Rams, which allowed them to keep the ball and score a touchdown. This stupid and unnecessary Jerry Tillery unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, knocking the ball out of Baker's hands after a sack that turned out to be the game-winning drive, and the decision to play man press coverage on Van Jefferson when even a child could tell you that you got to roll out your zone prevent defense so that you don't get burned going over the top for the game winner. Even Baker Mayfield was in the post-game press conference saying, when I realized they were playing press coverage, I was like, why are they doing that?
Oh, no, not Baker.
They were banking on Baker Mayfield not being able to drop that ball into a bucket, and he did it.
The professional quarterback.
But because of the multitude of ways that the Raiders blew this game, okay, like a 7-headed prostitute with mouths to give, because you got beat by a washed-up quarterback who had just gotten off the plane 48 hours before playing your sorry piece of shit ass, but mostly because one of our dear, beloved listeners who flew halfway across the world from Sweden to Los Angeles to watch this debacle unfold for him and for all you believers in Raiders Nation I'm calling out this performance and Josh McDaniels as my trash.
You are trash!
Damn. Well said, man. Shout out to the listener that went out there.
I saw that picture of him standing at SoFi Stadium. My heart broke for that. He fly halfway across
I thought it was
the
a Rams fan.
No, he was wearing a Josh Jacobs jersey.
Oh, okay.
He was like, I flew all the way out here to see this shit. I was like, damn, man, I feel for you, brother.
Oh, shit. What's your shit they got learned? I'll do mine. My shit got learned is the Titans should be thanking Santa, the Tooth Fairy, God, Muhammad, Allah, everybody that they are in the AFC South. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a playoff team every year because they're just not built like that. And they proved it by losing to the Jaguars as they hadn't done in nine times in a row in Tennessee.
Right.
So it's just they're not. I have to add them to my bad good team because they look good, but they're in the AFC South. Otherwise, they would just be a trash team. That's my shit that got learned. I'm out here believing on them and picking them to win every week.
My shit that got learned is like a different team, but kind of the same neighborhood from what you're talking about. I learned that the Seattle Seahawks are specifically designed to disappoint us. One, because you made us believe. We assumed you were going to be trash, and then you unleashed this crazy, unlikely energy into the NFL universe that had everyone second-guessing themselves. We had all written you off.
They wrote me off. I ain't right back, though.
But you clearly decided not to write back, and we loved you for it. We absolutely loved you for it. However, there was this quiet cancer hiding underneath the surface, a tumor in the shape of a dreadful run defense, whatever shape that is, I'm not really sure. But so now what was once one of the most fun stories of the year is starting to feel a little like a beach ball with a small leak, kind of slowly losing its air. A team that is now 7-6, where perhaps most damning 4 of those losses came at the hands of all 4 NFC South teams.
Damn.
The worst division in football. This is what I mean by quiet cancer. It's like,
wow.
Shit, 4 of your 6 losses were to the NFC South?
I did not know that.
I just read it the other day, and I was shocked. The Seahawks are currently out of a playoff spot. They can still sneak in if the Giants continue to slide, which I would a beach ball losing air is also how I would describe the Giants. But the problem is you have the surging Lions kind of hot on your tail, so it won't be easy. Yeah. Seahawks have 49ers, Chiefs, Jets, and the Rams. That's how they finish out their season.
That sounds like 3 losses.
Seattle is like one of those weird teams where it's like you could see them winning all of those games or none of those games.
I cannot see them beating the 49ers.
No, I can't either. But I'm just saying, like, well, the thing about the 49ers to me is that as fun as this whole Brock Purdy thing has been, I still feel like there's a Mike White moment coming because that's who he was in college. He played for Iowa State, Brock Purdy, and he has games where it's like, holy crap, who is this guy? And then it's like, oh, wow, he just threw 4 interceptions. Okay. You know what I mean? It's like, so that there's that possibility that it all comes crashing down for them as well. Okay. But to me, this is the week that I learned that the Seahawks are built to disappoint. That's what I learned.
Scariest AFC team. This seems these two seem pretty obvious. I feel like 2 teams are head and shoulders above the rest. But I'm gonna say the Bengals are the scariest team. They can beat you multiple ways. They're not giving up 28 points to the Broncos.
Yeah, I agree. I have the same for my scariest AFC team. They're on a 5-game heater. I mean, I know the Bills and the Chiefs won as well, but they both had kind of shaky performances, in my opinion. Yeah. The Bengals obviously did what they do on offense, but that defense is starting to come alive, looking fierce. They held my man, former Bulldog Nick Chubb, to only 6 total yards in the second half. That's no small feat. So I'm saying the Bengals.
And then the scariest NFC team, I'm going to say the Eagles because they put it all together, but watch out for the Niners, man. I feel like the 49ers they're a little scary too, man. But I got the Eagles right now as the scariest.
We're on the same page there again. I had Eagles all the way. Total performance. I mean, they look like a well-oiled machine at this point. I'd be so interested to see them play an AFC team. But I also wrote the honorable mention for the Niners. This Brock Purdy shit does feel like lightning in the bottle. We'll see if it holds up. And the way that team is built, the way that it's like you said, kind of a plug-and-play offense. Like, it doesn't really matter who's playing quarterback as long as they don't...
Just don't fuck it up.
They did lose Deebo Samuel in this game.
Oh, yeah.
To what I assume was a high ankle sprain.
Okay.
I mean, he was carted off.
Oh, shit.
So... And he was in tears as they were carting him off, which does not... It's either a broken ankle or a high ankle sprain. It was a moment where you realize, oh shit. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, it's time to put some spec. I feel like when players get traded a lot, or not a lot, but when a player gets traded, then it's like a sign, regardless of what happened. It's like the team felt like they can move on without you. So it's like a loss of respect. So then I feel like you got to gain that respect back. And Christian McCaffrey told everybody, don't forget who the fuck I am. And came out balling like crazy and told them,
put some respect on my name.
Similar neighborhood, because they're former teammates. I just feel like for 1 week only, because I don't believe that this is going to keep happening, but 48 hours, the quarterback position, you go from one team to the next. It's obviously, McCaffrey did it this year too. He got on a plane and flew to San Francisco and had a hell of a game. Well, actually his first game wasn't much, but he had a great game in his second game. But most people will tell you that the hardest position to play in the NFL is the quarterback.
In all sports, right? Isn't that what people say?
Yeah. The offense runs through you. Okay? So to watch the entire sports, not just the NFL sports world, but did you see all the tweets that exploded after that Thursday night football game? I mean, even people who previously had a lot of criticism for Baker Mayfield, I mean, you had people firing off from every corner of the universe saying man, Baker Mayfield on 48 hours? I mean, the guy basically took 10 or 12 snaps in practice. He was able to do a, short walkthrough with the team. For him to sort of conjure up a 98-yard touchdown drive. Now, obviously, the Raiders helped a lot, but 98 yards, no timeouts. And this guy went out and won the fucking ball game. It's like, I just feel like for 1 week, I do not expect that the Rams have now found their new franchise quarterback or that Baker Mayfield is going to have some sort of glorious resurrection. But for 1 week and probably 1 week only, I think you got to put some respect on Baker Mayfield's name.
Put some respect on my name.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was this episode of SveNFL. That was a great put some spec on my name, though. Baker Mayfield, that was the obvious. You got the right answer there because he was getting disrespected. But thanks for checking this episode out. You can support us, patreon.com/SveNFL. Shout out to Nils Langering Funk Unit, who does the music. And go stream that. Get them a little cash. Get serious. Get a job.
Yeah.
But thanks again. It's been Jonathan Rollins.
Schif Misara.
With SveNFL. We'll holler at y'all next time. Peace.
Later, yo.